Hi, I'm Michael, and this is Carelifornia. And that's it. We made it to the deadline, and no, there's no stimulus deal, there's no agreement between Democrats, Republicans, and the White House, and Congress has left us all at the whims of a presidential executive order, which is the weakest of the three possible ways that could provide support for people struggling right now. This is primarily because of what an executive order could leave out. So tonight we're going over what is the most recent failure by Congress to make a stimulus deal by today's deadline, and how Trump may impose limited support for the country via the presidential executive order. Now this is your 5-minute nightly dose, so let's make this quick. But before we do that, if you like this information, if you find it interesting, if you find it helpful, please don't forget to like and subscribe. That way you can get updates when our newest and most informative videos become available. Today, Republican members of the Senate and Democratic members of the House have failed to come to any sort of agreement on the stimulus package. In doing this, they have failed the people who elected them to specifically figure out these kinds of issues. Now, after a 90-minute meeting in the Capitol, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer out of New York called the meeting, quote-unquote, disappointing. And Nancy Pelosi from the House said that they were willing to lower their overall cost for their HEREOS Act stimulus package from $3 trillion down to $2 trillion if the Republicans would just meet them halfway. This would be a 100% increase from the Republicans' $1 trillion initial offer under their HEREOS Act proposal. But Republicans were unwilling to make the compromise. After the meeting, Nancy Pelosi said, "I've told them, come back when you're ready to give us a higher number." But at this point, it would seem unlikely that this is going to happen. The cuts offered by Pelosi wouldn't remove any specific benefits from the HEREOS Act, but just shorten the time in which they would be in play. But this obviously was not good enough for Republicans to make a deal today. At this point, it looks like there are far more things that the GOP and Democrats disagree on than what they actually do agree on. First, what they agree on is the necessity for direct payments or stimulus checks. Second, they can agree that more unemployment benefits will be necessary, but can't get past how much. This goes mostly with all the things they disagree on. So for example, Democrats, they want $75 billion for virus testing, while the GOP only wants $15 billion. Republicans want more money for schools, but only to offer it as an incentive to get schools reopened. And Democrats are aiming for $915 billion for states and municipalities, while Republicans are only willing to offer $150 billion. So when it comes to price tags, there's a chasm between what the two parties feel is appropriate and necessary. Some of the reluctancy by Republicans to give in to Democratic demands may be in part due to the improving unemployment numbers for July that just came out. While they are still really high, the newest reports indicate that unemployment rate fell to 10.2%, which is still higher than any time during the Great Recession, but can be seen as a sign that the economy is improving, which may be fortifying factors in Republicans' minds. This leaves President Trump and his executive order power. And this is one of the things that both Republicans and Democrats can actually agree on. It would be distasteful and less good to have key protections instituted by executive order rather than by legislation. But White House administrators Steve Mnuchin and Mark Meadows said that they are going to recommend to the president to take action today based on the lack of activity after their meeting with Democratic lawmakers. Trump would attempt to provide support for eviction protections, enhanced unemployment benefits, and student loan assistance through his executive order. But it's not going to be pretty. This is for a couple reasons. First, these types of executive orders would be subject to legal challenges and lawsuits by a Congress where both sides would not be happy about Trump circumventing the legislative process, as well as potentially undermining both of their negotiating strategies. Second is because the president will not have a way to fund any of these executive orders. It's the job of Congress to provide funding, not of the president. And finally, President Trump would only be selective about the types of help that he would enact by executive order. So it would leave out things like money for states and local governments, additional money for food stamp and SNAP benefits, as well as additional money for rental assistance and hazard pay for frontline workers. So needless to say, it would be an all-win for Trump, a some win for us, and a no-win for Congress if Trump institutes these protections via an executive order. Overall, it is reprehensible that Congress cannot figure out a way to help the American public. And you know what? I sort of agree with Trump on this one. How could any president just sit and watch as the country suffers and do nothing? Of course, whatever he does, it'll be too little and probably misguided and probably mishandled, but at least it is something. And that is far better than the well-crafted, thoroughly negotiated, and level-headed inaction that we've gotten so far out of Congress. My hope is that whatever Trump does, it'll be just enough of a band-aid to help people limp along until Congress really can put together a final comprehensive bill. This has been your 5-minute nightly dose, and I hope that you found it interesting or helpful or at least useful. And if you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe. That way you can get updates when our newest and most informative videos become available. Also, we here at Carelifornia, we know health insurance. So if you have any questions about your health insurance, leave that down below. We'll be happy to make a new video or a new post as soon as we can to go over that. Now finally, I'm Michael, and this is Carelifornia, wishing you a happy, healthy